Hi there, Vernacular Faithful. Redcoat here, and I've got another instruction manual we're going to go through. This one is going to be a little bit less of a deep cut, and it's in better condition. So, yeah, there you go. You can actually look at the cover on this one. So, the book in question is Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. So, right on the back, we got that advertisement for a different Castlevania, Dawn of Sorrow. Now, what's interesting here, although this wasn't something that was intended by them, but it's interesting because we have the two Castlevanias that deviated from the lovely and beautiful, absolutely gorgeous art style that defined Castlevania for years, for a more mainstream anime look. And don't get me wrong, I love me some anime, but it's it's an interesting deviation, and I know that there's also a little bit of a change in tone from game to game, although in reality, they're still dealing with some pretty interesting stuff. And I mean, it's still horror, right? And there's a certain gravitas that is lost when you change the style like this. Now, I'm certain there are plenty of people who have already commented on that, so I don't have to go into too far detail. So let's look at the rest of the stuff here. So of course we've got the basics made by Konami. And we've got, this was a Nintendo DS title, and you'll notice up here they had the good grace to let you know that this is capable of connecting with Nintendo Wi-Fi and doing stuff with that. Anyway, as far as the back is concerned, now it's interesting because this is a break in, well, kind of a break in standard. Because normally, when you've got a product that's on a Nintendo thing, you usually don't get the advertisement on the back. However, this is second party, so it makes sense that they would take the time to reach out to their target audience, which is important, and say, well, hey, if you liked this Castlevania, you're gonna like this Castlevania, right? 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 Anyway, so let's go ahead and open this guy up. And I will say, even with the art style difference, and I know the lighting is kind of bad here, I do appreciate the level of detail that they did put in there. Like I will stay still, the background environment is pretty gorgeous. And for the fact that they did change the art style, and so I'm kind of like, boo, they still did a good job with that art style. So I have to give them kudos there. So, of course, we got the standard stuff. A warning, don't use this improperly. Don't do this if you've got epilepsy or repetitive motion and battery leakage, because this is a DS, so you got to worry about that. And of course, we got the Nintendo seal of approval because this is a Nintendo product, and this went through the testing. This went through the testing space. This was not one of the games I got to test, though. This game will only work with the Nintendo DS. Oh, pirates would say differently. Just gonna leave it at that. Blood and gore, mild language, suggestive themes, and violence. Anyway, you got that table of contents, and looky here, we got something. I think we are in for a treat already, because you look, they actually went the extra mile and put some style on this. And it's one of those things. This was DS title. I think it's even odds whether or not somebody would actually break this out and just read it for leisure. And when I think about it, I don't think I actually looked at this one very much. But it is still in black and white, so saving on some money there. But yeah, they still got that look. They decided to go with the parchment feel and the Old English. I know there's a particular term for that font, but I'm just going to call it Old English font. You can flame me in the comments, or at least correct me in the comments. I welcome it. I appreciate it. All right. And what's interesting here, so really this is one paragraph spread out across the page. Fairly simple, but this is another thing with the Castlevania series. You're going to get most of the story in the game. So they don't really need to do too much, just need to show you, this is the big bad. You hate this guy. Hate him. Go, find him, defeat him, kill him, or that sort of thing. And go about that. Suppose I could just read this one, because it's pretty short. The year is 1944. The world is filled with chaos. The Second Global War holds the entire world in its grip of terror, creating hatred and fear along with countless numbers of lost souls. The agony and hatred of those souls summon the Castle of Evil, the castle that has appeared many times throughout history, only to bring terror and destruction upon its surroundings. The Castle of the Dark Lord, Dracula. The demonic castle. Incidentally, this is not Dracula. He is not Dracula. No. But the castle has appeared. It was a thing with some of the later Castlevanias. Once they realized, okay, we can't just do Dracula again. I mean, although they kind of do every time, but like we gotta mix it up. We gotta put different characters in there. So for this one, it seems that they do opt for more in-game pictures, but at the same time, we still got this snazzy background back here to keep you interested. It's got that parchment style, and I still appreciate the fact that they use the font here. Also, very good usage of spacing, making it very clear. It's like, this is this thing, it is attached to this. Break, this is this thing, it is attached to this. Break, this is this thing. Like, it's a small subtle thing, but as you saw in the Sonic writer's book, I'm gonna grab it. Yeah, I'm gonna grab it. Hold on. But as we saw in the Sonic writer's book, that's the characters, blah blah blah. So in this one, instead of just using spacing, they actually use lines. They use lines and specific text to actually break up the different things. Now, granted, they have a lot more space to work with, which makes it all the more impressive that they do the format that they do here in Castlevania. Now, part of it is also they have a little bit less to explain because, per DS. Well, I say they have less to explain, but I mean, Castlevania is a pretty complicated game already. But yeah, you got the different moves, and they use the Egypt stage because I believe that was the one that they used in a lot of their advertising. So they're like, okay, well, that's not going to be a spoiler, so we can use that in-game image. Then we got the title screen, which is a little bit more cluttered, unfortunately. They did so well over here, but this is more cluttered. Well. But, you don't have that much space to work with. And then over here, more in-game art, just talking about your options. It's just there because, just in case somebody doesn't know and they're looking in here, they got to know. It's an instruction manual, after all. You can't leave anything out. And here, I do like a lot of the styling that they do here. Now, I mean, when I say styling, what I mean is it's functional. Of how they've got it all blocked off and everything, because there's a lot of information that they're just talking about here with just on the in-game screen. Just like you got your character's statistics, because Castlevania is part RPG, or rather it has the RPG leveling system. Probably should have a different name for games that utilize leveling aspects. I'll have to figure that out. But you got your player status and all your equipped weapons and all of that stuff, and then enemy statistics and just things like that, like a whole bunch of information, and they're just like, they got it all. They fit it all into this one page. I am impressed. And so again, a lot of efficiency with their usage of space and just lettering. And I know, you can't read any of it. The important thing that we're talking about here is the layout. That's what's important here. How we still have the ability to really tell things apart from each other. Like each line is just very short. It says, this is HP gauge. This is the MP gauge. They're right there very quickly. And you've got a little line. I know you can't quite see it, but there's a little line pointing from it to the item that's in the screen. And, there's the player. And it's just they utilize the space very smartly, but very subtly, so that you can tell when one thing is separate from another. And again, here, using the boxes as cages for individual items when you've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up on there, and just going down the list, and there's a pointer to each item there. And one thing of interest here, you notice they use black here instead of everything else because this is the overarching statement of this is the game menu. And then here's all the individual parts, right? This is important. Here's everything else that's attached to it. And then we get to the menu screen here. Get out of the way. There we go. All right. Lighting is still kind of off. Oh, well. Then we get to the menu screen. And again, I guess it's because it's not an in-game screen. That's part of the, well, in-play screen. It's part of the reason why this section, they didn't afford the same, they didn't give it the same treatment as over here. And so they just talk about all the different things that you can do in there and the different things that you can do in the equipment screen as well. And again, you know, it's very basic, but again, you know, you got this little thing here. The status of your items, they put that in one specific spot, and they different guides talking about what your enemies do, and then just some information on the side. That is a gorgeous game over screen. I know you can't really see it here, but that is a gorgeous game over screen. And that kind of harkens back to the old school style. Wait, is that the thing? Game over? Game over. They use the German image. Okay, so apparently, I wonder. At least that particular screen was sourced from Nintendo of Germany, in Nintendo Europe, NOE. That's funny. NOE. I know some of the stuff that they used to do. Oh, we always dunked on them over here at NOA. That was fun. Anyway, what points? Mysterious paintings, and once again, we're using some in-game imagery. And I think that's in part because, again, Castlevania is a pretty complex game. So, whereas with, say, a Mario game, you could just kind of show Mario doing the thing and kind of get the gist of it. It makes sense that they're just kind of like, yeah, we're not going to draw that. We're just gonna use some pictures here. Also, again, very little space for them to work with here. I'm talking a little bit about multiplayer. I think we only get one page for that. No, we get two. We get 2 pages. Talking about the shop and other things. I never actually played the game with a second player, actually. And then you can do Wi-Fi. And I think it's just basically saying you can connect to the Wi-Fi and choose your options and do stuff there. Just basically saying different roles. And then, of course, now, of note, they went through a lot of other stuff before you got to the characters. Which I find interesting. Normally, I would think, like for a game like Castlevania, which is very story-based, I would think that they'd put the characters up front, kind of like they did with the Tales of game. But I guess they had a different idea of what they were focusing on. And for what it's worth, I mean, I appreciated a lot of what they did for just making this visually attractive. But yeah, you got your Jonathan Morris, a member of the Morris clan, Charlotte Owlin. I don't know what business she has here. She's, childhood friend, sticks her nose into other people's businesses. Like, I'm curious. What do you do, John? I kill vampires. It's cool. I want to go with you. No, that's not how that went. But you got I am the wind. I am a dead man. Mysterious dead man. And then you have Stella, the wind's daughter, mysterious dead daughter, and Loretta, the wind's other daughter, mysterious dead daughter. They're actually not dead, but mysterious daughters. Then you have Bronner, the big bad villain of this game, and not Dracula, because that's later. Vincent Doran, a monk and a holy man. I think the only real holy man in the game, per se. And then you've got Death, regular partner to. Actually, that is an interesting note with this one, because this game was kind of, there was this idea of, you were playing John and Charlotte at the same time, and I guess spoilers, but it's been out long enough. You've been warned. Spoilers. I mean, at the very end of the game, Dracula does get resurrected, because he always does, with one exception. Two exceptions, I think. And Death is like, "Brother, we will work together to defeat this young 18-year-old man and 16-year-old woman. Why are we struggling so hard against these people?" I digress. But yeah, there's this kind of brotherly portrayal of them in that last battle, where they're teaming up and using these team-up attacks and funky, cool stuff. It was a fun little fight. Anyway, that was Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, instruction manual, and a little bit of just walking down memory lane. Now, of course, because these are my memories, I might have misquoted and misstated some things, and that is fine. That's what the comments section is for. At any rate, I very much enjoyed playing this game. I was, as I said before, put off by the change in art style when compared to the previous Castlevanias, but I did appreciate they might have changed the art style, but the functionality of the game was the same. And also, the in-game visual aesthetic was basically the same. The real thing, the only thing that changed was the veneer of the advertisements, and as it turns out, that's at least important to me. So, that's another book for today. So this has been a Redcoat of Vernacular Games. We do game consultation, and you can request our services either to help you with figuring out where you need to take your game, what you need to do to kind of flesh it out a little bit more, or you can hire us out for direct services either on programming or art. And should you desire to do so, you can email us at vernaculargames@gmail.com or redcoatvernac@protonmail.com. At any rate, play the games you want to play, boyos. This is Redcoat, signing off.